All right, folks, say a few words and we'll open the question.
Good morning, everybody. I hope that you're doing well. I'm grateful that you're covering this floor session. We are obviously dealing with a really heartbreaking and troubling set of circumstances for a colleague of ours and for this institution, the Minnesota Senate. I think it is important to acknowledge that we don't have all the facts, but this is obviously a very tough and challenging situation for this institution. Senator Mitchell is going to have a number of, she's going to have a number of difficult conversations with her family, with the people who sent her here to represent them, and with her colleagues. And I want to encourage her and allow her to do that. And with that, I'm happy to answer your questions.
Have you spoken to her?
I had a very brief conversation with Senator Mitchell yesterday after she was released, where we talked about her kids and her well-being.
Will she be here to vote? She was excused today. What's her plan, do you know?
So I don't know yet. I do believe that she is a duly elected member of this body, and so I am not sure of her plan right now, Peter Gallen, but she's elected to represent the people in the district that sent her here, and they deserve her representation.
Peter, can you the ethics subcommittee normally decides what it does?
So the ethics subcommittee in either body is put in place for situations like this, and it is a committee that has been used repeatedly over time in order to take up and render a conclusion and a recommendation to the full Senate. And so we have used this practice many times. There's been a complaint filed. I just learned it was filed today. That starts that clock. We have up to 30 days. The committee does. I am not a member of that committee, so it is the committee themselves that take up this question with the intention of investigation, to understand the facts of the matter, and to render a recommendation for the balance of the Senate.
Other changes being considered remote voting. Will Senator Mitchell be allowed to vote remotely if she isn't here?
Senator Mitchell is a duly elected member of the Senate, and we don't have the ability to condition her vote.
Wasn't the rule going to condition remote votes to illness or military service? Are you going to table that rule now and not change it?
So I will say that motion was made and been told by the author of the amendment in reaction and in some haste, and there are members on both sides of the aisle who have concerns about the narrowness. For instance, I'm leaving to go to my father's funeral tomorrow. That would not be a reason to be able to vote remotely under the draft language. So I think there were already, before this incident, questions being raised about that. But we will take up those rules. We will deal with that as a matter. Remote voting is a part of the work that we do in this body. I think it is a practice that is here to stay. I hope that we're able to modernize it in the future. But right now, the discretion for remote voting rests with either caucus leader, and it includes the health and safety of members.
Go ahead.
Senator Mitchell's public comment about what happened differs drastically from what is laid out, under oath by police officers in the charging documents. Have you seen both narratives, and what do you make of the discrepancy there?
I am the majority leader for the Minnesota Senate, and my work here is for the Minnesota Senate. I am not interested, nor am I willing to engage in conversation about those proceedings in a criminal matter.
How about the conduct of the rest of the session in terms of getting the bills across that are priorities for the DFL?
We came into this session with the intention of getting important work done for the people of Minnesota. I believe that is a value that is shared by Democrats and Republicans alike. And while this is an issue that is heartbreaking and troubling, we do have work to do before we adjourn on May 20th. And I am asking and inviting my colleagues to make sure that we're doing everything we can to conduct that work for the people of Minnesota. They've entrusted us with the work of the people, and we need to get that done.
Senator Friends pointed out that many other lawmakers in the House and Senate over the decades have been arrested, accused of crimes. He detailed the number of them. Others called this unprecedented. Which is it? What context do you want to give to that?
I am, the first to acknowledge that we are human beings. We are elected and entrusted with a responsibility by the people of Minnesota, but we are human beings, and human beings make mistakes. This is not the first incident where someone has come run afoul of the law. And the legislature has a process to deal with that in the Ethics Committee. Senator Mitchell, just like every other member of this body, and people in the state of Minnesota are entitled to and have a right to due process. She has a due process right in this body. She has a due process right in court.
What has she told you personally when you spoke?
She was happy to get to a place where she could take a shower, and she was happy to see her kids.
Senator, you've had a couple of conversations with Senator Johnson, including at dinner last night. What can we anticipate from their point of view? Did he give you some indication? I mean, they could bullet the whole thing up and you could pass nothing if they wanted to keep making motions, as he maybe suggested at the end of his comments.
So this is a moment of leadership for all of us, and I am hoping that Senator Johnson and his caucus decide that the work of the people of Minnesota is paramount, and we should focus on that. We're facing a heartbreaking and troubling situation. That is right. But we still have a charge and a purpose for the people of Minnesota, and we're going to choose, I think, in our leadership, whether or not we're going to focus on that and do that work together, or use this as a political moment for political gain. I hope it is the first and not the latter.
Do you think the Rules Committee will take this up before the end of session, though? They have 30 days. We have fewer than 30 days left.
I am not going to prejudge the chair of the Ethics Committee, but I think we all understand that this is a serious matter. It's a troubling matter. It's a heartbreaking matter. And I would expect the Ethics Committee to take that seriously and take it up.
You've been in leadership. You've been in leadership
You
before. You
mentioned
ran
Mary-
for governor. Where does this stand in your career in the tests you face?
This is a new experience for me. I'll just say that. But I have a lot of faith, both in the people of Minnesota, in their compassion. I have a lot of faith in my colleagues and their ability to recognize the troubling nature of the situation and to commit to the work of the people of Minnesota.
All right, folks, last question.
Did you offer any guidance to Senator Mitchell when you spoke to her?
I had a very brief conversation with her. I wanted to make sure she was okay. I wanted to understand what she was going to be doing, and I wanted to make sure her kids were okay.
Senator, I just want to clarify something you said before about the remote voting rules. You mentioned leaders having discretion. Are you in a position where you would be willing, to, given these circumstances, to give Senator Mitchell permission to vote remotely for the rest of the session?
So I will be considering that question as the days and weeks come before us. It is a day-to-day consideration of someone's health and safety.
All right, folks, we got to go. Last question.
Do you expect her to participate in the next session some way?
You know, right, Senator Mitchell is a duly elected member of the Senate. She's elected to represent the interests of the people who sent her here. I anticipate that she is going to participate until she can't anymore.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Thank you, everybody.
I'm doing okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about your father.
I'm going to have to borrow Kleenex from the Senate.
You just want to give us just a minute or two, and then I will get Senator.
Can we get readjusted here?
Yeah, settle up. I know it's really tight and it's really crammed, but let's give him a minute. Senator.
You okay?
I cut it on a tripod.
You're going to be there. You got to go down.
I know. I was doing the double prop down here. This is why the seated position. And I had to get super aggressive because we missed like half of that, by the way. So.
Do you have a wireless?
We're good.
Oh, rolling.
Scott, those all work.
A wireless law?
Yeah, I'm famous.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know. That's why I tried to ask her questions to get her to spin so we could get her face.
I know, it's really bad. Yeah, prednisone, it's just horrible for your skin.
I would have held it earlier, I'm sorry.
Mine are gone. Yeah. I'm sure my kidneys are fine.
All right. Hey guys, are you ready? Okay. So I just want to first of all, clarify exactly what happened on the floor, because I know there's been a number of questions on what the motion was that Senator Lucero brought forward. And that was simply to give Senator Mitchell due process. Now, you heard the Democrats talk about us undercutting the due process here in the Minnesota Senate. But what this did was it compelled the committee to meet immediately and then consider the expulsion of Senator Mitchell. And so that is just getting the process going. What you're seeing right now is the DFL kicking that down the road 30 days later. Already today and tomorrow, Senator Mitchell is having an impact on the business of the Minnesota Senate. We no longer have bills on the floor today or tomorrow, and committees are being canceled. So we need to get this resolved ASAP, and we saw the Democrats just punt that down the road again today. And so I want to make sure that that's absolutely clear. We want due process. We want that to happen, but it needs to happen soon before more stuff is impacted going forward for Minnesotans in this state.
Can she vote? Should she vote?
Well, she certainly can, with either on the floor or with approval of the caucus leader. And so she can vote remotely that way, or she can be here on the floor. And so if there really isn't an issue, she should certainly be here on the floor voting with us. But that's where we need this to clarify through the Ethics Committee whether her actions should allow her to still be here as a member on the floor.
But you still want her to resign?
I asked in my statement yesterday for her to resign, yes.
If she were to return in person for in-person voting, I mean, what would that look like? You talked with members of your caucus before this. Would they be respectful of her presence here?
I mean, absolutely respectful. We do want due process to happen. I think it would bring up a number of questions on the floor and probably distract us from the work that we need to be doing, asking her about her ability to be voting and what exactly transpired, those sorts of things. So it would create a distraction until this gets resolved in the ethics hearing.
Some comment at the very end where you said, we will be bringing this issue up. What is your approach? Can you stop the work of the Senate by bringing it up and making motions? Do you intend to allow them to hold votes that could pass bills?
So our number one concern is making sure that the Senate and the institution is working for the people of Minnesota. But we will be asking these questions, just like we've been talking about. Senator Mitchell is the 34th vote. She's the one that can or cannot be the deciding vote on passing a bill. And so until that's clarified through an ethics committee hearing, there's going to be a large distraction going forward. And so that's where we think it's very immediate. The action needs to be happening immediately on the ethics committee to give certainty to this body to move forward.
So even if there's no adjudication in the criminal court system, you think they should go ahead and make a ruling on her here?
Oh, absolutely. We've got the judiciary system, and that's going to be criminal charges and whatnot, but this is their ability to participate in the body that we have here. And with these questions over the top, hanging over the Senate, it really impacts our ability to get the work done in Minnesotans.
On principle, should a lawmaker be allowed to vote when they've got a felony charge hanging over their head?
I think that's up to the body here, and we have, that's where the subcommittee on ethics comes in, and that's where this motion was so important today, was to get an understanding of what the body is going to be doing moving forward. And so we give them the due process, but then the body decides whether they can participate or not. And so we've kicked that down the road. Democrats have kicked that down the road today.
Ties have happened before. Have you done research? Is your staff owning up on that? I mean, do you see yourself being a pseudo majority leader?
And we've had some instances like this in the past. If you remember, Senator Fischbach at the time was bumped up to lieutenant governor, and I know there was a little bit of overlap there with Senator Gazelka and Bach at that time. But the reality is, Minnesotans expect these bills to come across something that's bipartisan that we can work on together. I think that would be actually an excellent way to end the session going forward, showing that Republicans and Democrats can get the work done. In situations just like this, where it's hard to get that done, they expect us regardless to do that.
But are you studying up on it? Have you pulled research?
We've got staff that's working on how that can be done. So yes.
2-2 though, right?
What's that?
Ethics subcommittee is still 2-2.
Absolutely, right? Yep.
Dana has a question.
You met with the other leaders last night. What did they tell you about the situation, or what did you ask of them in terms of how to finish out this session?
Sure. It seems like we've got some leaky holes over here or something, that secrets are getting out. Yeah, we did have dinner yesterday. It was a great dinner. I do respect the leaders. They've been great. Leader Damath and Hortman and Senator Murphy, of course. And so, we're working on that. The discussions are still ongoing. No details as of yet, but this is still a fluid situation, and so we'll figure out exactly what the end of session looks like together. Oh, was excellent. That's the important question right there. Fish is good.
Anything else? All right, thanks, guys.
Folks, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Thank you.